بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah ta'ala, today we're going to cover the life of a great Sahabi. And so this lecture series that we're doing for the next 8 weeks, inshallah ta'ala, will be about the 10 people, or amongst the people that we know of, from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, while they were alive, that they were granted Jannah, or that they will be granted the Jannah, inshallah ta'ala, the paradise. And we're going to go into, inshallah, some of the aspects of their lives. What was it so impressive, or what was so important in their lives that they did, that we can emulate in our lives as well, to become like those great Sahabi and the sister Sahabas as well, that we can become of those who are granted Jannah as well. We won't be granted Jannah in this life, but at least we try to make it as easy as possible. So the one that I've covered today, and I wanted to cover people that I didn't know, and I will tell you that some of our other brothers have chosen people like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala warda. They're great, these are great people. Many people know a lot about them. The one that I wanted to cover today, most people probably don't know much about, and I'll even ask a polling question in a second. So the full name of this person is Abu Ubaydah Amir ibn Abdullah ibn al-Jarrah, more commonly known as Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah. And he was one of the 10 companions in that famous hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that was granted Jannah while he was still alive. Can anybody tell me anything that they know about Abu Ubaydah? Anything? Yes. He was granted Jannah. Okay, alhamdulillah, you're listening. Yes.
The Prophet ﷺ given a very high status. He says that he's very strong and very trustworthy.
He's very strong and he's very trustworthy, alhamdulillah. And I would say that is mostly for most of the Sahaba. Yes.
He was active in the Battle of Tabuk.
He was very active in many of the battles, and he was a leader. So, of the things that we'll cover, he was a commander of a large section of the Muslim armies during the time of the Khalifa Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala warda. And he was also on the list of Umar's appointed successors to the caliphate, becoming a successor Khalifa. That's how high his status was. Many people don't know that he was of such great stature and of such great importance to our religion, that he was going to be one of the succeeding leaders of our ummah. And so let's go into his early life. He was born in the house of Abdullah ibn al-Jarrah. He was a merchant by profession, his father was. And then Abu Ubaydah belonged to the Qurayshi tribe of Banu al-Harith ibn Fihr. Even before his conversion to Islam, he was considered one of the notables amongst the Quraysh, one of the most notable people that we knew. And one was famous among Quraysh of Mecca for his modesty and as well his bravery. Extremely modest, very kind, very sincere, and extremely brave. And we'll see a lot. His conversion to Islam was very, very early. When the Prophet ﷺ was starting to give the da'wah and started to preach the religion of Islam, after Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala warda, Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah was the one who accepted the day after Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala warda. The Prophet ﷺ started to invite the people, the ones that were most closest to him, amongst his friends, his families, his relatives, and he was one of those people. Now, everyone knows that when the Muslims started to come about within the Meccan period, that they were going through a lot of harsh periods, and they were tortured. And he was one of the individuals that also migrated to Abyssinia. So Abu Ubaydah radiyallahu ta'ala warda also himself lived through harsh experiences that the Muslims were going through in Mecca. From the beginning to the end, every single thing that they went through, he was going through as well. And so with other early Muslims, he endured the insults, he endured the oppressions of the Quraysh. He did as much as he could in order to be able to survive through it. And so during the first emigration, so the first time that the Sahaba Kiram Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in left Mecca and they went to Abyssinia, this violence against Muslims renewed itself with much more conviction and became stronger, because they know now that there's a faction of them that is overseas and this religion can possibly prevail. So being the only person in the clan to have accepted Islam, Abu Ubaidah was the highest amongst them, the foremost amongst them. He was given basically the leadership amongst them. And the Prophet ﷺ suggested that the remaining Muslims who were specially subjected to the atrocities of the people of Mecca, that they migrate as well. So many of the people that didn't need to be here and they were going through a lot of hardships and they were experiencing insults and oppressions, they were asked to move. They were asked to go and leave and go to a safer town in Abyssinia. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala migrated to Abyssinia along with a delegation of 83 other Sahaba and 20 of those, and plus 20 women. Let's get into the migration to Medina. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was migrating from Mecca to Medina, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala also migrated with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. Not with him on that journey, but he had also migrated. When the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina, everybody knows they were being paired. So the people from Mecca, being the Muhajirun, the ones who emigrated, and the people who were the citizens of Medina, those being the Ansar, each one was being paired up with the Muhajirun was paired with the Ansar. And the reason was because the citizens, they already had land, property, wives, children. You know, they had everything established there. They had businesses. And the people who left everything behind for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when they traveled to Medina, they needed to start afresh. They needed to they need to renew everything that they had. So they were paired up. So each of the people who was paired up, and in this one, Abu Ubaidah was paired up with another great companion, and many of you probably know the name, Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala wardah. And so they became the brothers in faith. They became the brothers for each other. They became their support for each other. And this is one of the things I think we as a community also need to concentrate on. There should always be a person that you know that you can always rely on. And so that brotherhood is something that we also need to establish ourselves. And so that brotherhood, that best friend, that person that you know is good in deen, good in iman, and that if you ever had a problem, if you had an issue that you needed to discuss, you need to go through, if you're going to make a decision in your life, if there's a person that you can consult, a person you can seek advice from, that person should be in your life as well. So this is one of the lessons that we should learn from the pairing of the Muslims at this time. So now, when they moved, when the Sahaba Ikram Ridwanullah Ajma'in, they moved there for 1 year. They were basically in a peaceful environment where they did not have to worry about the oppressions and the insults of the Quraysh. And now they are free in Medina. Until a year later when the Quraysh raised an army to attack Medina. Now, during this era, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala participated in the first battle, which is the Battle of Badr. And so the Muslims against the Quraysh of Mecca. In this battle, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala wardah had to face one of the most difficult tasks. He had to face his own father in battle. His father, he was trying to avoid his father. He's trying to go left, right, to try to see if, I don't want to battle my father. This is the one who has brought me into this universe. And this is a person that he did not want to battle. But Abu Ubaidah's father was absolutely angry and absolutely vicious towards him in terms of him accepting the religion of Islam. And he himself wanted to kill his own son because he chose the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the message of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and gave up the polytheist religion of the forefathers. And so there was an honor issue here. And so he had to face him, and finally, when he finally had to face him, he went without avoiding anything, without avoiding a fight now, he went and he eventually killed him. He killed his own father. Radiyallahu ta'ala wardah. When Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala wardah attacked and killed his father, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed a verse for him. And it says, this is in Surah Mujadala, verse number 22, Surah number 58, لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم أولئك كتب في قلوبهم الإيمان وأيدهم بروح منه وَيُدْخِلُهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ أُولَٰئِكَ حِزْبُ اللَّهِ أَلَا إِنَّ حِزْبَ اللَّهِ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you'll never find those people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they believe in the day of resurrection, making friends with anyone who is hostile towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if they are your own fathers, your forefathers, or their sons, or their grandsons, or their brothers, or their near relatives. It's those in whose hearts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in faith, inscribed that faith within them, and has strengthened them with His Spirit. And He will admit them to the gardens with streams flowing under them. They will live in them forever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with these people. And these people, these Sahaba Ikram Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'een, are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is they who are the party, the devotees of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, it is the party of Allah that attains to this goal. And meaning the people who are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are the people. So even if your own father, your wives, your children are going to stand in between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you know the action is to leave that which does not befit us. Try to guide them. And I'm pretty sure Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warda tried to guide his father, and his father was just one of those people that just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not written Islam as a religion for him. The following year, when the Battle of Uhud took place, in the second phase of the battle, everybody knows that the Muslims had won the battle. Basically, the battle was won. It was in their hands. There was a few people that were sitting on the mountain, and those were the archers. And they needed to stay up on that mountain to protect from, and the Prophet ﷺ already knew that if they attacked from the back, like Khalid bin Walid when he was not Muslim yet, he took the army from the back and he attacked the Prophet ﷺ from the back. Because when they thought that the battle had been won, the archers left their positions. So at that time, when Khalid bin Walid's cavalry attacked the Muslims from the backside, when basically victory was in the Muslims' hands, the victory was snatched out of their hands, the Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warda was one of the people who guarded the Prophet ﷺ from the attacks of the Quraysh soldiers. On that day, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala lost 2 of his front teeth protecting the Prophet ﷺ. To protect him, he lost his 2 front teeth. Not only that, the Prophet ﷺ was wearing armor. And you know the armor of steel, metal, and it gets charred when you get hit on it, and 2 pieces of it had penetrated into the cheeks of the Prophet ﷺ. And he's the one who is pulling that char out of the Prophet ﷺ's blessed cheek. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So as you know, Battle of Uhud was one of the first battles that the Muslims lost, but after that it was a long streak of successive battles that they had won. Now, a few years later, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala also took part in the Battle of the Trench and also into the Battle of the Banu Qurayza. He was also made commander of small expeditions, and such as to attack and destroy tribes. And some of the tribes that he had to go after were Tha'lab and Anmar, who were plundering nearby villages. So these are groups of bandits and people that are coming and they're attacking. And so the Prophet ﷺ had sent him to take care of these little battles. The following year, he participated in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah and was made one of the witnesses over that pact. And later in that same year, he was part of the Muslims' campaign to Khaybar. And the following year again, the Prophet ﷺ sent Amr ibn al-As to Zat al-Salasil, from where he called for reinforcement. And then the Prophet ﷺ sent Abu Ubaydah in command of an army that contained Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala warda and Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala warda. They attacked and defeated this enemy. And later in that same year, another expedition was sent under his command to locate the routes of the Qurayshi caravans. The Quraysh was taking supplies and taking their merchandise, and when they're selling it, they needed to intercept it to be able to take care of their own people as well. So this skirmish is known as Sayf al-Jarrah. Now, in the following year, when the Muslim armies rushed for the conquest of Mecca, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warda was commanded as one of the 4 of the Muslim armies. And so there was 4 Muslim armies. They each went from a different direction into Mecca to secure Mecca. Then later that year, he participated in the Battle of Hunain, in the siege of Ta'if. He also was part of the Tabuk campaign under the command of the Prophet ﷺ himself. On the return from Tabuk, a Christian delegation from Najran arrived in Medina. And they showed an interest in Islam and asked the Prophet ﷺ to send them with a person who's going to guide them in the matters of religious matters and in other tribal affairs according to Islamic laws. And Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warda was one of the ones who was appointed by the Prophet ﷺ to go with them. He also sent a tax collector to Bahrain by the Prophet ﷺ. And then he was present in Mecca when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. So now, let's go a little bit after the Prophet ﷺ had passed away. And this is during the now, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala was going to assume the caliphate and he was going to become the Khalifa. When the Prophet ﷺ passed away, the matters of succession, like who was going to take over, started to come about. So the matter of succession took place at Saqifa of Banu Sa'd. Abu Ubaydah was there along with Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala warda and Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala warda. Umar radiallahu ta'ala warda said to Abu Ubaydah, so this is Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala warda, telling Abu Ubaydah to stretch forth your hand for the Khalifa. Like they thought that he was such an important person that he was being offered the Khalifaship, the directorship, the rulership at that time, and he declined. He pulled his hand back and he refused, and he said to Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala warda to stretch his hand forward to take the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you see like how high of a companion he was? After the Ridda Wars, when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was trying to take care of the different prophets that were coming about, as well as the Zakat al-Mal issue, where people said that they wanted to practice Islam, but they didn't have to pay Zakat al-Mal anymore. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala sent Khalid bin Walid to Iraq to conquer it. And then he sent 4 people to the Levant area. This is the present area of Syria, Jordan, Libya, Palestine, all that entire area, making Abu Ubaydah radiyallahu ta'ala commander of one of them. So his target was selected to be Amisa, and he was ordered to move through the route of Tabuk after the army of Shurahil bin Hasana. He remained the commander-in-chief of those Muslim armies until Khalid bin Walid arrived from Iraq to Syria. And then he was ordered by Khalid bin Walid to remain there until Khalid radiallahu ta'ala now had accepted Islam, reached the city of Basra. And then Khalid and Abu Ubaydah met at Basra. Their castle at that time, when they went to Basra, they basically sieged the city. The castle surrendered the city after the Battle of Basra. And at this moment in time, 130 Muslims had died by now. Now the Muslims heard of a gathering of 90,000 Roman army men were being gathered together at Ajnadin. All the divisions of the Muslim army joined Khalid at Ajnadin, which was about 32,000 Muslims in number. The Muslims defeated the Roman army. So can you imagine 32,000 against 90,000? Triple the amount, and still the Muslimin was still victorious under the command of Khalid bin Walid. After a week, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala along with Khalid bin Walid moved to Damascus. And on their way to Damascus, they defeated another Roman army in the Battle of Yakusa. And then now Timur, the son-in-law of the Emperor Heraclius, sent another army to stop Khalid bin Walid's constant attack, but they were also defeated in the Battle of Maraj al-Safar after the corpse of Abu Ubaydah and Shurab al-Hasana joined him. The next day, the Muslims finally reached Damascus and they signed the city. They seized the city, which continued for 30 days. So when they were in Damascus, they captured it for 30 days. It was under siege. And after defeating those Roman reinforcements that were sent by the Emperor Heraclius, at the Battle of Sanita al-Uqab, 20 miles from Damascus, the Muslims finally attacked and conquered the city. And the conquest of Damascus was held on at that time. Abu Ubaydah was appointed by Khalid bin Walid to seize the Jabiyah gate of Damascus. It was Abu Ubaydah who gave the peace to Damascus after Khalid bin Walid attacked the city and conquered by force. But as Abu Ubaydah, Shurab al-Hasana, and Amr bin al-As gave peace to them unaware of Khalid's attack from the gate of his side, and then the peace treaty was signed by Khalid radiallahu ta'ala warda. And the Roman army was given a deadline of 3 days. 3 days to go as far as they can with their families and their treasure. Others simply agreed to stay at Damascus and then pay the jizya tax. And after 3 days, deadline was over, the Muslim cavalry under Khalid's radiallahu anhu, command attacked the Roman army by reaching them from a shortcut, which was known as the Battle of Maraj al-Dibaj. Now, when the Khalifa Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, so this is happening under Khalifa Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. How long was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu Khalifa for? Very short period of time, right? Anybody know? 2 years, right? It was very short. It was 2 years. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala passed away. And Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala became the ruler now. He became Amir al-Mu'mineen. When Umar radiallahu ta'ala became Amir al-Mu'mineen, he became the Khalifa, one of the first things that he did was he took Khalid bin Walid and he removed him as the commander-in-chief, and he placed in his place Abu Ubaydah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu ta'ala warda as the commander-in-chief. And the reason was, there's a lot of little mongering amongst the Sahaba at that time as well, because there was some relationship between them and there might have been some jealousy. Allahu Alam, it wasn't jealousy. The reason why they had to change is because Khalid bin Walid was so strong in his militaristic skills that he was able to go and surround armies, and he was able to win all of these battles, that Umar ibn Khattab thought he wanted the people to not think that all of these victories are being taken place because of Khalid. And he wanted him to be removed, meaning removed as the commander-in-chief and still participate in battles. So Abu Ubaidah was put in charge, Khalid bin Walid was, and then Abu Ubaidah, being the smart Sahaba and modest and sincere, self-respecting person, knowing he still used the abilities of Khalid bin Walid radiallahu ta'ala the entire time. But now the new commander-in-chief was Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala. So again, Abu Ubaidah, one of the major things that you should realize about this, he was very humble, a great person. He was fearless, and he was an extremely skillful fighter. Now, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala had a different style in terms of his command. There was a slowdown in the pace of operations. As Khalid bin Walid is going from one battle to the next battle to the next battle, Abu Ubaidah moved slowly and steadily. He made his mark, and he made sure that what he wanted to go into and exercise. Khalid bin Walid was very quick with his motions, very quick with his decisions. Abu Ubaidah was more calculated, and he would do things a little bit more steadily. So one of the other things that Khalid bin Walid used to do, he used to use the element of surprise in a lot of the battles. And he used to use a lot of brute force in the battles. And Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala warda, he was more calm. Now the conquest of Syria continued under the new commander. So you remember that they were still attacking Syria at this time. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala warda used to rely heavily on the advice of Khalid bin Walid, whom he kept with him as much as he possibly could. Now the conquest of Syria, basically until the conquest of Levant. So again, these are the areas of Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, the Philistine territories, as far as southern Turkey. These were all under the command of Abu Ubaidah now. Soon after the appointment as the commander, he sent Khalid bin Walid to rescue Islamic armies trapped amongst the Romans at Abu al-Quds. Khalid radiallahu ta'ala warda went there, and he defeated them in the battle of Abu al-Quds. And then Abu Ubaidah made Khalid commander of the cavalry, which was later to become the best part of the Muslims' army and was given the name the Mobile Guard by the historians. Now, the Emperor Heraclius assembled an army to defeat the Muslims and evict them from Syria at the plain of Fahl. The Muslims moved to Fahl, the cavalry under Khalid bin Walid first to arrive at the battle scene. The Muslims defeated them at this battle. After the battle, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala along with Khalid moved towards the Amisa city with Khalid in command of the cavalry. Meanwhile, the Emperor Heraclius, the Roman Emperor, is still sending others to Damascus to recapture some of the areas that they lost. And there was only a small defensive army in the city under the command of Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan. And so when the general of the Roman army met the Muslim army, he moved with half of his army towards Damascus at night, while Abu Ubaidah and Khalid were engaged with the remaining the Byzantine army was involved at this time as well. Now, a spy informed Abu Ubaidah about this move, and Khalid radiallahu ta'ala's cavalry was dispatched immediately by Abu Ubaidah to defend Damascus. And Abu Ubaidah defeated the Byzantine Empire while he stayed behind in the battle of Maraj al-Rome. And Khalid radiallahu ta'ala attacked and defeated the General Theodorus in the second battle of Damascus. After a week, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala himself moved towards Balaq, while he sent Khalid to Amisa. And both cities surrendered and agreed to pay the jizya tax. So you had three options, right? Either you move out, you stay there, you either accept Islam, or you stay there and pay the jizya, the tax. So the easiest thing was to accept Islam or pay the jizya tax if you want to stay into that area, in that area. Now, Amisa and Qinasarin cities signed one-year peace treaties where they were going to be held, not liable for anything. And then Abu Ubaidah, along with Khalid radiallahu anhu, moved towards the city of Hama. It surrendered and agreed to pay again the jizya. And later Abu Ubaidah sent Khalid to Shirzir, Afamia, and Matar al-Hams, which all surrendered, which were all other cities that surrendered. Now the city of Qinasarin and Amisa broke their peace treaty. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala sent Khalid to reclaim that city that they had lost. And then they defeated the Byzantine army in the first battle of Amisa. The Byzantines then retreated to the castle of Amisa. Soon Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala reached this town with the rest of his army and gave the command of the siege to Khalid radiallahu ta'ala wardah. He defeated the Byzantine once again in the second battle, and then finally conquered the city in the third battle after another 2 months of siege. As you can see, it's just constant battle over battle, and Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala was serving as the commander-in-chief and general for battles, and he's going from city to city to city, back to cities that they have captured, because when they would leave a city, they think, the army is moving this way and they can't come back quickly, and so they were constantly protecting. So then after that, Abu Ubaidah sent Khalid radiallahu to conquer northern Syria. He defeated there a small group of the soldiers, and then took as many prisoners as he possibly can. These prisoners informed him about the emperor, Heraclius' final effort to take back this empire that they had lost of Syria. They told him that an army of possibly 200,000 will soon emerge. 200,000 will be compiled together. They will emerge, and they will try to take back the lost land of Syria. Then Khalid radiallahu ta'ala halted his advance, and this huge army set out for their destination. As soon as Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala got news, he gathered all of his officers and he decided their next step. And Khalid radiallahu anhu gave the suggestion that they should call all of their forces present here in this province of Syria, Jordan, Palestine, Israel. This area was called and referred to as Levant, to utilize the combined forces of the Muslim army and then move towards the plain of Yarmouk for the battle. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala ordered all of the Muslim commanders to withdraw from the conquered areas. So they had conquered a lot of the different areas, and they asked all of them to move towards this area where they were going to have these 200,000 soldiers come about. And then they also paid back the jizya. So once they started to empty out the areas, they started to give the money back to them to be able to handle the city on their own, and they moved towards Yarmouk. Now the Emperor Heraclius' army moved towards Yarmouk as well. When the Muslim army reached there, within 2 weeks, the Byzantine army also arrived to the battleground. Now, there was a skirmish between Khalid's cavalry and the Christian Arab of the Byzantine army. Khalid radiallahu ta'ala defeated that small emissary. For a whole month, there was no action in the plain of Yarmouk. So it's silent. They're basically preparing. They're getting ready for the battle. And now, 3 or 4 weeks later, the Battle of Yarmouk was finally fought. And it lasted a full 6 days. And then the Muslim army defeated the Byzantine army. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala held a meeting with his high commanding officers at that time to decide the future conquest. And they decided now to move to Bayt al-Maqdis, to conquer Jerusalem. Now the siege of Jerusalem lasted for 4 months. Finally the city fell. They agreed to surrender, but only to the Khalifa himself. And the Khalifa himself at that time was Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala warda. So now Umar radiallahu ta'ala had to come from Medina all the way over to Jerusalem. So Umar radiallahu came from Medina and the city surrendered itself. After that victory, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala sent his Amr ibn al-As, Yazid bin Abi Sufyan, and Sharjil bin Hasana back to their areas to reconquer them. So remember, they had pulled out of some of the areas where they were still fighting and they had conquered, and they wanted, usually when they conquered an area, they would keep a presence there to kind of, get the jizya tax going, to, see how many people they can explain Islam to. They would bring the imams and they would teach the people. And so a lot was going on. But when they knew that this major battle was taking place, they pulled everyone out of those conquered areas. They put them into this major battle with the Byzantines. When that battle dissipated and they won that battle, they sent them back where they came from to go reconquer those areas and start collecting jizya tax again. So to explain to them about Islam. So most of the areas now, when they went back, they didn't have to fight, right? So they had already fought once, so they already told them about Islam and they already told them what the deal was. They accepted the first deal, which was to pay the jizya, and many of the people started to accept Islam now. Now Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala moved his armies towards northern Syria again to conquer them with army numbering 17,000. Now Khalid radiallahu ta'ala was coming along with his cavalry, and he was sent to Hazir, and Abu Ubaydah moved to Qasrin city. Now Khalid defeated a strong Byzantine Empire army in the Battle of Hazir and then reached Qinasarin before Abu Ubaydah. The city surrendered to Khalid radiyallahu ta'ala, and soon after that Abu Ubaydah arrived. Abu Ubaydah moved onto the city of, anybody know Aleppo? You hear Aleppo these days, right? City of Aleppo in which area? Which city, which country? Syria, right? So this is where they went. And so after the battle of Aleppo city, finally, they agreed to surrender. After this battle, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala moved to Antioch. And on their way to Antioch, the Byzantine army stopped them near a river on which there was an iron bridge. And because of this, the battle following, this is known as the Battle of the Iron Bridge. And Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala wardah defeated them, and the city of Antioch surrendered as well. Now Abu Ubaydah sent Khalid radiallahu ta'ala wardah to conquer the remaining cities. And then Khalid, in a series of small battles, conquered different cities. Abu Ubaydah sent Khalid to conquer northeastern. Now, so remember they went north, now they're going back to the east, right? Northeast, eastern area of Syria. Khalid radiallahu ta'ala wardah conquered all the areas up to the city and then finished all resistance up to the Euphrates River. After these conquests, Khalid radiallahu ta'ala wardah returned to Abu Ubaydah at Aleppo city. And then later Abu Ubaydah radiallahu dispatched Khalid and another of his general, Ayaz ibn Ghanim, with armies separately. And then Khalid radiallahu ta'ala conquered the city of Maresh. So as you can see, there was a lot of battles that were fought. And then Khalid bin Walid, even though he was relieved of his duty as the commander-in-chief, you see that it was just the title issue. Still, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala wardah was using Khalid bin Walid to attack a lot of the cities with small cavalry armies, a few hundred, a few thousand men, and take care of this city, take care of that city. And they were able to take care, basically, as you can see, how far Arabia started to go north, south, east, and west. And so under Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala wardah's Khalifa, the Caliphate, the empire started to expand very, very vastly in both east and west and north and south. Now, there started to be a drought in the area. So Arabia fell into a severe drought after a period of time. And so the people started to become, started to die because of hunger and because of epidemic diseases. You don't have rain, you don't have vegetation, the animals are dying out, and things are happening. So as a result of these droughts, hundreds of thousands of people from all over Arabia are gathered at Medina, and the food was rationed. So can you imagine you come there, and you can only get a little bit of food just to be able to survive. I mean, you can never be able to eat your fill because there's just not enough food for everyone. So they were rationing the foods at this time. Now the reserves of food at Medina, so the reserves at one point were large. When the people started to gather from all over Arabia in Medina, they started to decline. The reserves of food started to decline. The food was running out. People are dying left and right. They're sick. They can't get the proper medication, malnutrition. Everything is happening to them. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala had already wrote to the governors of the different provinces that had been set up to send help for the people. So he wrote a letter to Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala wardah, in which Abu Ubaydah wrote, Abu Ubaidah's caravans of food supplies was the first to reach Medina. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala, knowing the issue that was taking place, message has gotten to him, he had sent some food and supplies over. With the first supply of 4,000 camels full of food, Umar radiallahu appointed him to distribute the food among the people who were living around Medina in thousands. And when Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala did that, Umar radiallahu anhu wanted to give him 4,000 dinars as a reward, but Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala refused the reward. He refused to take it, saying that he did all of this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. So all of the time you always see a same message going through. So now a severe drought had taken place, and this severe drought, so 9 months had passed after this drought, a new problem started to brew. And this new problem now is the epidemic plague. It broke in Syria and western Iraq, and it was more severe in Syria. When the news of the plague broke, Umar radiallahu ta'ala was on his way to tour Syria, to visit Syria, but he returned from the border of Syria because his companions had suggested that, now that the plague is taking place, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made a very specific hadith, made a specific rule. When there is a plague or when there is some type of epidemic that takes place, nobody leaves and nobody comes in. So at that moment in time, he returned from the border of Syria. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala met him there and said, Umar radiallahu was shocked by this and said in sorrow, if only someone else would have said this other than you, Abu Ubaidah. And then he said, Umar radiallahu ta'ala returned from Syria because of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once instructed one shouldn't enter any place where epidemic is unless it is absolutely safe. And they knew it was not safe, it was growing. So Abu Ubaidah returned to his army. It was then that a plague hit the land of Syria, and the like of which people had never experienced before. It devastated the population, and the Khalifa Umar radiallahu ta'ala wanted to make Abu Ubaidah his successor. He didn't want him to remain there in the epidemic region. Umar radiallahu dispatched a messenger to Abu Ubaidah with a letter saying, when Abu Ubaidah received Umar radiallahu ta'ala's letter, he said, I know why Umar needs me. He wants to secure the survival of someone who, however, is not eternal. Meaning he had been succumbed, Abu Ubaidah had been succumbed to the plague. So he wrote to Umar. When Umar radiallahu ta'ala read the letter, tears filled in his eyes, and those who were with him asked, what has happened? Has Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala died? And he said, no, but death is extremely near to him. And so Umar radiallahu ta'ala sent another messenger to him saying that if you're not coming back, so if you're not coming back because you aren't allowed to come back because of the epidemic and because you're plagued now with the disease, then at least move to any highland which has less humid environment for your own protection, for your own safety. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu moved to an area called Jabiya. As soon as Abu Ubaidah moved, he became completely afflicted with the plague, and as death overhung him, he spoke to his army. So now he knows these are the ending days, and he then appointed Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu ta'ala wardah as his successor, so as the commander-in-chief to replace him, and he ordered him to lead the people in the prayers. And after the prayers, Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu ta'ala wardah came to him, and at that moment, when he came over to him, he had expired. So he died, and he was buried in that area where he had climbed to Jabiya. So let's go through some of the legacy. Before I go through the legacy, now I'm going to open it up. So what are some of the things that you've learned about Abu Ubaidah radiallahu ta'ala in the last 30, 35 minutes or so? Anything that you've learned so far? I know we've gone through a lot of different battles, a lot of different information. So anything, yes? Sorry? He fought various battles, you said, right? He fought various battles. Very good. Yes. Go ahead, microphone. But Dawood, you're slow.
Yeah, he was a good archer. He protected Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
He was,
And
yes.
if you really check what his motive was, is for not for the dunya, but for the protection of the
The
deen.
protection was, he left after everybody else had left. Everybody else had left, he stayed behind. And then when he saw the Prophet ﷺ was cornered, then he went to his protection. Radiyallahu ta'ala warḍah. What else have we learned? So, yes.
I believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Say it again.
he was very fierce. He was very patient with gratitude.
He was very patient and very,
gratitude,
he's
humble.
very, extremely. Extremely. So, his legacy. Let's go through his legacy. In the books, his legacy is recorded. They say his appearance, mashallah, he was very beautiful. His appearance was very striking. He was a very slim and tall person. Face was bright, mashallah, full of nur. And he had a very sparse beard, a small beard here and there. And it was pleasing to look at him and very refreshing to meet him. Very noble, very high character, extremely modest, extremely courteous, humble, and very, very extremely shy. And you hear about other Sahaba Kiram, they were very shy. And yet in a tough situation, he became very strikingly serious, and he became extremely alert to the situation, and he started to think of how to address that situation. He was given the title of Al-Amin, or the custodian of the Prophet ﷺ's community, the Ummah. And Abdullah ibn Umar once said about him, his way of life was very simple. He used to dress in very simple clothing. Nothing spectacular, nothing out of the ordinary. During the conquest of Jerusalem, when the Khalifa Umar radiallahu came to Syria, he saw Khalid bin Walid and Yazid bin Abi Sufyan dressed in very beautiful and charming dress. And Umar dismounted from his camel and threw sand over them, saying that it has not been even a year since you have come out of the hunger and hard life of Arabia, and you have forgotten all of the simplicity when you saw the glamour of Syria's emperors. But he was cooled down when Khalid bin Walid explained to him that under these clothes they're still armed to counter any enemy that comes about at any time. And Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala, who was there too, was still dressed in his simple dress. And Umar radiallahu was pleased to see him at evening. When Umar radiallahu went to his home, he saw that Abu Ubaydah didn't have anything at home except one single bed. And when we talk about a bed, it's probably like a sheet or some type of very simple cushion, not the beautiful posturepedic beds that go up and down, left and right for us. A sword and a shield. A sword, that was his house. Subhanallah. That was his entire house. And Umar radiallahu ta'ala wardah was extremely pleased by this. The Christians in that area of Levant, like Syria, Damascus, now they started to accept Islam, inspired by Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala wardah, that the whole tribes of Banu Tanuq and Banu Salij were Christians. They accepted Islam after the conquest of their city. And then there were many reliefs given by Abu Ubaydah to the non-Muslims living in those areas of Syria. He was regarded by Muslims to be one of the 10 companions of the Prophet ﷺ who were promised paradise to them during their lives. Radiyallahu ta'ala warḍah. And about his family life, very little is known about his family life. The Abu Ubaidah's family, there's been some historical records that he had 2 wives, and from his wife Hind bint Jabr, he had his son Yazid and Ubaydah, and from his wife Warja, he had a son named Umair, but all of them died during childhood. And it's unknown if he had any daughters, but his male line of descendants is reported to have ended because they were also fighters and they were followed in their steps of their father. And this is just an interesting point. You probably find this interesting. The people of Aligarh in India, Aligarh, anybody know about that? Aligarh? India claims that they are from the ancestors' lineage from Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warḍah. So it's a very interesting concept. I thought that I'd like to share that with you. This is all I have. Any questions of Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warḍah? So one of the first things I would tell you, the 10 companions, if there's one thing that you'll get to know about them, the people, they were in Islam early on. Like when the Prophet ﷺ started to preach to these people, to his family and to relatives, to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and the people in his family and his relatives, let me ask you, was Islam strong at this time or extremely weak and in a very absolute starting phase? It was an absolute starting phase. So it wasn't the riches that brought them in. It wasn't that they can become army rulers. They never thought that they would be rulers of the army. 13 years of suffering in Mecca. He had to move away from his home. He had to emigrate, go away to basically protect himself and his life. And then when they came back, and they had to again run away from Mecca and go to Medina and start their lives over again. And they still didn't want to fight until they were forced to fight in the first battle of Badr. And when the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had come, that now you fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you stand in the battle of Badr. And so the people, he's one of the first, and then he stood in battle of Badr. He fought his own father. And this is not something that is common. This doesn't mean that you fight your father on a regular basis. As children do today, they fight with their parents. And this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about this is a person who has accepted Islam, and this is a person who has refused Islam and only wants to follow the religion of his forefathers. And then his father is the one who basically encouraged the battle and forced him to battle. And so he had to fight his father. And so he had to make that tough decision and take the life of his own father in order for them to move forward. And so if you see, this is one of the major reasons. He started early when Islam was nothing, and it was in its early stages at the seed formation, and it became much, much greater with him there as the ruler of the army. And before he became ruler, remember, he was also working with Khalid bin Walid. So the titles were reversed, but yet they still relied on each other, subhanAllah, in the companionship, the beauty of these people working together and the ability to work together and getting over their differences. So if Khalid bin Walid was swift and surprise attacks a lot and doing a lot of different things, Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala, more steady, more face-to-face, no surprise attacks. That was not part of his mantra, because the army had done, Khalid bin Walid had done a lot of the work already for him. He didn't have to do a lot of surprise attacks and do anything like that. So any questions? Yes, there's a question here.
So, because he was married, by the way?
Say it again?
Was he married?
Abu Ubaydah? Yes, he had 2 wives.
So
Yeah, like I said, there's not much facts about the family. We know about the 2 wives and a couple of kids. We don't know about any daughters. No, it's Allahu A'lam. Allah knows best what his familial situation was. I'm pretty sure if he had a wife, it was long periods of time when he wasn't able to see her because he was constantly traveling and constantly going to war. So, but they say from the first wife, he had 2 sons, and from the second wife, he had 1 son. I'm sorry, but all of them died in childhood. They all died in childhood. My apologies. All the children died in childhood, so he didn't have any known lineage after that. Allah, I don't know of his age. His age wasn't mentioned in the sources, but it looks like he was definitely a little bit elderly, probably in his 60s or 70s possibly. And Allah knows best. Any of the questions about Abu Ubaydah radiallahu ta'ala warḍah himself and the character? So let me ask you a couple of final questions, and then inshallah we're going to break for Isha Salah. So what are some of the characteristics that you think that you would try to apply in your lives, learning from his life?
When they had the battle, because they actually did it in the cause of Allah, with the Kushu Kazu, with Iman
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
with Iman and Taqwa they had.
Iman and Taqwa, excellent. Yeah, absolutely.
But right now, because the only way they were very brave, they were very patient, gratitude, and everything came from the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No, absolutely.
That's what I encourage.
The brother behind?
I believe the brother had the qawtha of Allah in all of his actions, and I think that as Muslims we should do that as well. And,
absolutely.
You know.
Inshallah, we'll break for Salah now, inshallah. Jazakallah.